the third in this series was called A Deadly Treatment. And that languished at Henry Holt. It was just a terrible thing. You think of these books as your babies, your children, or I do. And so I'd call over there and they'd say, "Oh, Denise Osborne, oh yeah, A Deadly Treatment. Now, did you want that published?" "Oh yeah," and an order of fries with that too, thank you. You know, "Do you want that published?" "Well, gee, you know, you are a publisher."
Yeah.
"You are a publisher." And they said, "Oh, well, let me see if I can find another editor." So this is the problem with the state of flux that they were in. And so they'd say, "Oh, well, it's going over to Tim." And so I'd call Tim. Well, Tim had been fired. I said, "Okay, well, can you tell me where else to call? Who else to call?" "Well, why don't you call Bethany. Bethany's over in Mysteries. I think she's in Mysteries. But anyway, we'll see." They never did find my manuscript. It's still somewhere in limbo there. But in the meantime, I got another agent, and I got her because she was a friend of one of the Supreme Court Justices of California. Asked me why this. My father-in-law was friends with the Supreme Court Justice of California. So he got this connection for me. So this woman who was absolutely wonderful, she was just wonderful, I loved her, but she wanted me to write romances. But she didn't tell me for about 6 months. But I thought, okay, with this new agent, she can call Henry Holt and she can find my manuscript and maybe we can just start over with another publisher. So she calls over there and she just chewed everybody out. She was furious. She said, "You shouldn't be treating this author like this. Who do you people think you are?" And on and on and on. So I didn't have a really very good reputation with them. When they did remember me, they thought, "Oh yeah, Denise Osborne, her, and her agent."
You're on the list, but not
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at least this woman, Charlotte, did try. But let me tell you about Charlotte. Charlotte was wonderful, but she was very, very wealthy. So she didn't have to work. And I didn't find that out until later as well. But her husband owned all these malls, shopping malls and things like that. And I thought, oh dear. You know, she picked romances. She wanted to sell romances and she liked romances. So, but she'd done this favor for one of these Supreme Court justices who was a friend of, you know, the connections, friend of friend. So I don't think that's a good way to get an agent. You don't go to your father-in-law. Your father-in-law.
On a grading scale.
On a grading scale. So, dang, here's another mistake. You know, I have all kinds of little errors I've made on this road, but I feel that I've kind of learned something from them. I don't know, maybe when I'm about to croak, I'll think, "Oh yes, that's what I learned." And someone will say, "What was it, Denise?" It was...
I just want to say this. Didn't you go to hear Lee Child speak once? Lee Child had the exact opposite experience of you.
Well, Lee Child,
Yeah. Like he said in his book and they posted. Remember? They took his book and they said, "Oh, we love this book." And it was out, boom, boom. "Can you write another one?" I mean, just like that. His whole career has been like this, and he leans forward into the mic and he goes, "This is not the normal expectation. This is not everyone's experience."
Well,
but he has no battle scars for getting published. His writing and his research, experiences, but the actual publishing part was just like.
Well, you know, he probably has more business savvy too, and he would not make mistakes. He would probably suss out an agent who was exactly what he needed. I think he was a lot smarter. I was very naive, like I say, and I'd come from a background in screenwriting too. So talk about your delusions. There you have it. but then I didn't write for a while, and
Why, did they explain why they didn't put your name on the side, or they just forgot?
they
Somebody
forgot.
forgot to do the checklist, and
Oh, yeah, it's,
that's why you're saying they're not as smart as they think they are, because they forget some of the details?
right, and that's a major detail.
Yeah. I guess you're lucky the title's on there.
Well, I suppose so, or it, you know, it could have been upside down.
Yes.
Now, there is something, a little story about Laura King, is in her first book, The Beekeeper's Apprentice. Not her first book. Her first book was that other one that won the editor. But,
Yes.
but the first in the Mary Russell, she had a Hebrew quote, and it was printed upside down. So, you know, little things like that.
Yeah, I read an interview with Harlan Coben, and after he'd been published for a while, somewhere in the process, like the book company, they switched his first and last name.
Oh, wow.
And,
Oh, what a great story.
he caught it just in time, or, you know,
Coben, Harlan.
his name would have shown up
Wow.
as 0 for book sales, you know, and
yes.
it would have been the end of his career.
Wow.
Mhm. Well, if your agent, your agent should be pretty savvy too, and try and look at those things before your book comes out, when it's just in proofing, you know, because you do that proof.
It was like on the list of the Borders or the booksellers.
Okay.
And so it wasn't on the book, but it was on the booksellers.
Oh.
And, you know, so, and then, so it would have gone that way to, like, the New York Times bestseller list, and it would have been nowhere, because nobody bought a book by Coben Harlan.
That's right, that's right. And,
Yeah.
you know, the same thing happened with Cut to Murder, when they did send out the information that the book was coming out in June,
right.
and
Oh,
then,
yeah.
but then they
Yeah,
neglected to
yeah.
say that it was actually coming out in August.
Yeah.
And the reason I was given was that there was a paper shortage.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's
where
what
does
the
that come
publishing
from?
company said?
Yes,
Oh.
that's what my editor told me. There was a paper
Okay.
shortage.
They were too
None
cheap
of
to
the
buy.
papers.
You mentioned sort of screening agents before you would even try to
Mhm.
them. Do you have any tips on how to effectively do that?
Well, I would look at who
Who they represent?
who they represent. A really good way to find an agent, I think, is to just come here and look in acknowledgments. So, and especially for books that are similar to yours, like say you're writing Hollywood mysteries. Find all the Hollywood mysteries and then see the author, who the author acknowledges as the agent, and then start trying them. However, the thing about that is sometimes the agent says, well, we just want 1 or 2 authors in this genre, and we're going to keep them. But still, if those people change over, the agent has your name, and they'll know that you are writing the Hollywood mysteries as well. So, you know, treat it like a business, and keep that information, keep all the information that you have about the agents. Nowadays, you can find so much on the internet. There's that one site, you know the site I'm talking about, Authors and Agents, or I can't remember the
There's
name.
a science fiction website that talks about the crooks and the...
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
Predators and Editors.
Yes.
is the name of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
What?
Predators and Editors.
Predators and
Predators and
Editors. That's a really good one.
Well, and I have not experienced this myself, but I've heard other people tell me that there are certain, particularly mystery writing conferences where there are agents who maybe they're not getting people, but they'll talk about the agent process. Certainly as a writer, I think those are workshops you'd want to go to.
I would suggest that before you actually go to the conference, see if you can find out which agents are going.
Yes.
And then find out about the agents. And when you do, then contact them and see if you can make an appointment. That's a good way to do it.
I remember